and welcome to Live in the Solution. I'm Mary Trimble and I'm here with the fabulous Nadiya Shah.
We love each other. We love each other.
And you know, I don't know if you know this, that my word is fabulous too.
Oh,
actually,
wow.
I have a registration plate that says I am fab.
Oh, we connect on that level.
I tell you, we're sisters from different misters.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm really excited. Of those of you, Nadiya is one of the first astrologers on YouTube. Her YouTube channel is over 10 years old, so check her out. Nadiya Shah, S-H-A-H.
Yeah.
I kept saying,
any variation of Nadiya Shah Astrology.
Yeah, you'll see it. Yeah, she was actually listed as one of the top 12 astrologers in French Vanity Fair. She's international, darling. She's Trait International. She's lovely. She's a teacher. Check her out. She's amazing.
You are lovely. You are a teacher. You are international.
See what I mean? Now you know why I love her.
We do. We love each other. Yes.
So I have some questions.
Sure.
I have some questions from astrologers that I asked for as well.
Okay.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you is what inspired you to become an astrologer? Which is probably one of the most questions you get asked, yeah?
Okay. I think
By
that
astrologers.
astrology is something that chooses you.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think anybody really sets out to say, I'm going to be an astrologer, because to be an astrologer, you're kind of on the fringes of the world.
Yeah.
You're a little bit out there already. But yeah, I just feel like it was something that was just always there as part of my family and part of what my family liked. And there were always these stories about ancestors and the different things that they did in terms of esoteric practices. And when I was 14, I got hired to professionally read palms at a fair. Yeah, in Toronto.
Fabulous.
And that was like the start of my professional career. And then after that, my aunts and my mom were just constantly giving me astrology books and saying, here, you're going to be good at this. And it just sort of went its own way.
I'm really jealous. We were reading tea
way.
leaves in England.
Well, there you go. Yes. So it's all divination, right?
Yeah,
You're tapping into that divinatory spirit. Sorry, while we're here, I'm just going to do this because I'm a little warm. And I'll do this too.
Yeah, thank you. We're having our own personal summer here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my friend who's an astrologer, he wanted to know, when did it all click for you? So do you remember that moment when it all kind of came together and you said to yourself, I got this? Do you remember that moment?
I think it comes and goes, right?
I was thinking that because I was saying,
like,
does it ever? Because the more you know, the more you think, oh my God, I need to learn that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's always like this journey, this process. And sometimes you feel like you're in the flow, and sometimes you feel like there's more to stretch and to learn and to grow, and ways in which you want to be better. Yeah, I think it's just very cyclical. But I think the moment when you really get to that point where it's like, okay, I got this, then that's when the universe like, oh yeah,
let's have some fun with you. Show you. You ain't got this. Okay, so what? Also, I had some people from the channel ask some questions, and one of them was, what is a good time to consult an astrologer? For what reason do you think is a good reason to consult an astrologer?
I think that whatever inspires you to go, your reasons will be uniquely your own. I know that a lot of people go to astrologers when they're going through a very challenging time.
Yeah.
Like normally it's a Pluto transit, sometimes a Saturn transit, but it's these things that make them dig deeper within, and they want to get that more symbolic perspective. But then there are times when, it's just interesting. I think it depends on the context and where you are. I remember doing, like, way back in the day when I was paying dues, I would do like parties and things, right?
Yeah.
And I'd do like, over the course of a few hours, I'd do like 20, 30 tarot readings or something like that. That isn't astrology, yet it is an interaction with divination,
right,
which I think can be part of what opens people. And so for some people, they'll come to it with curiosity and fun. And then other people may come to a reading because something really painful is going on.
Right.
Yeah. So I think when is a good time is when you're open to receive, but even when you aren't, sometimes it'll find you and you surprise yourself by receiving it.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I've always been interested in astrology, but actually tarot brought me to study it formally because I think when you know tarot, you can't ignore astrology, myself personally.
Oh yeah, there are like very deep astrological connections to the tarot. And I actually, like the tarot decks that I've ever used are very clear in their astrological symbolism. Like they associate, they'll have the actual glyph of the planets and the signs.
I saw that in your class. I was going to ask you if they were tarot cards.
Oh, those images were from a manuscript, a Renaissance manuscript off the top of my head. I think it's something Sphere al Mundi or something like that. It's an Italian manuscript. But I really love those images. I'll share it with you. You can share it with others.
I love that. Yeah. I was looking at those and I wanted to ask you that. They would make really great tarot cards.
That is true. And they're not copyright protected anymore. So someone out there could publish that.
Great idea. Okay, so this leads me to my next question, actually, because this is something I wanted to ask you. Is there room for intuition in a reading, along with the precision of the technical information? Do you sometimes intuitively, do you bring intuition into your readings?
I think intuition is actually a big part of it. It's the divinatory aspect, right? I remember one of my former profs, Jeffrey Cornelius. He is like really a big dog in astrology. Like if you are like beginning, you may not really know him, but once you are like an intermediate student, you know who Jeffrey Cornelius is. And anyways, my book is called Astrology Realized, and that actually was inspired by his work. And so he wrote a paper where he made the distinction between what he called a speculative reading and a realized reading. And so a speculative reading is, as you're saying, like, you know, the techniques.
Right.
You come to the chart and you say, okay, well, Venus, right now, your natal Venus, well, Pluto is squaring your natal Venus, and that could mean, 20 different things. That can mean so many different things. But a realized reading is when you enter a different space, like you sort of, that's just the jumping off point, the techniques. And instead you go into a space where you start to speak truth to that client's chart. And you can't get there without the divinatory, the intuition aspect to it. And I remember, like Jeffrey Cornelius used to say, you want to learn as much as you can so that you have the language in order to actually understand a symbol, to interpret it. But when you're actually in a moment of a reading, it's almost like you have to forget all of that.
Yeah.
You have to put that aside so that you can just allow, whether you want to call it your subconscious, whether you want to call it spirit, you want to allow that to take over. Because that's going to allow you to speak truth much more.
Yeah.
And interestingly, this is kind of my philosophy when I make videos on YouTube as well, because I know some people out there, they know you through YouTube, and now they're going to know me through YouTube. But yeah, like so often people will contact me afterwards and they'll say, hey, you mentioned this in your video. Can you say that again? Where can I get this link or whatever? And I won't even remember.
Yeah.
Because I'm
go into a zone, right?
Yeah, I just go into a zone and I'm just talking and just letting it come forward. And it's only when it comes forward that way that it's actually good, in my opinion.
Yes,
that
I
it
agree.
actually ends up reaching people in a real honest way because it's honest.
Because I've followed you for ages. You know
I didn't know that. Oh, thank you.
Followed her for ages. And that's what,
because we just met at UAC last year. Because you became good friends with my friend.
Camilla.
Yes, who is a Mexican astrologer who's a very dear friend of mine, now a friend of yours.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea.
Thank you. I always thought, oh my God, she speaks to me.
Oh, well, it's better. It's more rewarding for me as the person making the video. And it is, I have found, it speaks truth to the people who are watching much more when I get out of the way. When I get intellect and ego out of the way and I just allow it to come forward. And so sometimes that means it might get a little messy. It might go a little bit,
Well, you see, what I want to mention is that Nadiya sometimes seems very serious on her channel. And I see this wonderful, effervescent, beautiful personality. It shines and comes through, and I wanted everyone to see that.
Oh, thank you.
Gorgeous.
Yes, I live life fully, I will say.
Yes.
I enjoy life fully, but I can also feel things fully. And That's probably why I like the work that I do, because it allows me space.
Yeah.
It allows me to decompress. And it's nice being at these events too, because when you're at these events, you're actually interacting and you get that human sense,
Yes.
right? Because
you don't feel so odd.
Yes, that is so true. You don't
Yes.
feel like an alien in your
No.
world, because so much of my life so much of my work is like me at a computer or
Yeah.
me in front of my phone making a
Right.
video. That's so much of what I do. To actually have that human connection, it's so energizing. So I
Yeah.
think that's what comes forward at these conferences a
Yeah,
lot.
it does. I was like, oh,
And
I found my tribe.
I never, yeah, right? And I never get a chance to really dress up the way that I do
Yeah.
it here. Like, I just don't. So I really I purchase dresses throughout the year, and I save them so that
I
when
know
I'm
your
here,
dresses are over,
I
darling. I love
the
them.
dresses, yes.
Sparkly. You're a sparkly, but I'm so
Yeah.
sparkly. I call it shiny shit. So what is it? What is your speciality, would you say?
I would say my speciality would be, or specialty in Canada, we say specialty, that I think it's more the academic background that I bring, the philosophical
I wanted
approach
to mention
that I
that,
bring.
yeah, because Nadia studied in the UK at
I
University of
did.
Kent.
Yes,
darling,
in
I was
the
very
UK.
impressed. She's very intelligent. A lot smarter than me.
I don't think so. Hey. No. We're all equal here.
Yeah.
Yes. No one's
that's
better
why.
than anyone else. In a true Aquarian style. Sometimes in my videos I'll say something like, we are all equal. Or the other week I said something like, I realized that in my life how many decisions I've made based on my need for freedom and based on how important freedom is, something to that effect, because I really believe it's like this human urge to want freedom. And all these people commented, true Aquarian spirit. I was like thinking, yeah, that's so true.
I think that's what people kind of confuse money with. Because they say they want money, but really it's the freedom that money brings. That's what I think.
I remember a friend of mine in the UK, actually, one of my dear friends, Aldo. He's a hairdresser. He's like the only hairdresser who ever really did my hair the way I wanted. An incredible guy. You can check him out. I'll give you the link. If you're ever in Canterbury, you're going to see him because he's so fabulous. But anyways, I remember once saying to him that there was a comedian who said, money gives you options. And my friend said, love gives you options. And that was so profound to me. Like, I always remembered that because it's so true. Like, I remember that summer, I spent the whole summer in Europe. This was years ago. I was in Europe for the whole summer, bopping around and going to, different countries and visiting friends. And so much of that was possible because of love. Like, really, love made all of that possible. And so it really helped me to realize, like, to make that
really
distinction.
go off on that subject, but I know we're on time. We're on a time thing because I really love that subject.
Yeah.
Okay, so what house system do you use?
I use Tropical Placidus.
Okay.
It's a tropical zodiac Placidus house system. Very standard, right? One of the more standard. But I would say whatever house system someone chooses
is the right one for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It should be based on your own interpretation. Like, for me, because I tried so many different house systems, it just resonated. Like, for example, in a lot of house systems, my sun is in the 7th house. And there's just no way I'm a 7th house sun.
No.
There's just no way. But in Placidus, I have an 8th house sun.
Oh.
In whole signs, I have an 8th house sun. And so 8th house sun makes so much sense for me. Yeah.
I've got a 12th house sun.
Ooh.
So this is the last question that I have for you. I know I could go on forever.
Yes, I could
really
really
could.
forever. The time just goes by.
I know, it flies, darling, it flies. Okay, can you tell us something about yourself that would surprise everyone to know? You're not going to share that. There's no way she's going to share that.
I don't want to share that stuff.
Well, you know what
So I gotta have something for myself, right? Yeah.
That's your Pluto. I was going
to Pluto in the 4th.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
well, I have a grand trine in air with Pluto in the 4th, Sun in the 8th, Mars in the 12th. So there it is, right? It's like, I gotta have something for me.
Well, I learned something about you in your class with your Mercury is in the 11th How? No. Something's in Gemini. I know
Oh,
your part
part
of
of
fortune
fortune.
is in Gemini in your 11th
Yes,
house.
that's something.
And I have that too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we're in the right
With
place.
Venus conjunct.
That's beautiful. So not
Yeah.
only will you find happiness and opportunities and prosperity when you come to events like this,
Yes.
but love.
Yes,
Lots
I
of
do.
love.
I
Yeah.
get lots of love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel like I should ask you another question.
Ask me anything.
Let me
Let me
see.
touch you.
Oh, I love that you did palmistry. Do you ever talk to?
I don't do that anymore.
No,
'Cause
but
what
that
was
you
happening,
did.
I did it when I was a child, like
I
14.
did it when I was younger. I thought I could read palms. I was useless.
Because what kept happening was that my mom, because my parents are so proud of me. They always bragged about me. But anyways, they would tell people this, and then people would stick their hands in my face at parties constantly. And I was
Oh,
like,
I remembered the other question I want to ask
and I
you,
was
actually.
like, okay, no, and that was part of what led me away. But I just kind of also feel like I had experiences when I was in university, because you're studying, like, so many students studying so many different things. And I remember, like, once someone doing that, like, sort of telling me why they didn't believe it, and then wanting me to prove something to them by sticking their hand in my face. And I was like, no. And so I've just really realized, especially the older that you get, like, there's nothing to prove to anybody else.
No.
Just live your truth,
Yeah.
be who you are. And if it's something authentic that you're sharing, people will resonate with it. You'll find your audience, you'll find your tribe, you'll find your people, you'll find the support that you need.
Right.
And so that's really the place from which I live my life. Like, to just
So
share
I
something
do have
honest.
one other question,
Mhm.
or maybe two. But
Okay, go for it.
okay,
I'm
so
here. Let's see how
when
much
you-
time. We got time.
You've got time.
Yeah.
So when we so say you're chatting to someone and they're like, you're at an airport or somewhere, and somebody strikes up a conversation with you and they say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm an astrologer. What do they say? I want to ask you what question. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, because I get the same question every time. What question do you get?
Well, look, it depends how I feel. If I feel safe to say it, I say it.
Oh, yeah.
If I don't, for whatever reason, then I'm still honest. Like I say, I own a small multimedia company, which is the truth. It's the truth. And so, like, I've had people kind of, like, for example, I have a neighbor. She's a lovely person. But I remember I had a bunch of teaching to do that week. I was teaching lots of classes with different forums and things online. And I was saying to her, I have a class to teach. Can our dogs play together now? Basically, it was like a play date for Biggie, so that he'd get tired and leave me alone while I was teaching. And so
Nadiya, by the way, has a beautiful big blue pit, a bully, right?
He's a bully. I don't know if you can see that.
He's called Biggie Smalls. He's
Smalls.
Oh my God!
He's my pride and joy. I love
him
him so much. I know, right?
Big smile, right?
Oh, thank you. You speak right to my heart when you talk about my dog.
I've got a dog too.
Oh, yeah? I want to see a picture of your dog.
Oh my God, my dog's got a blue mohawk.
Oh, lucky you. But what was I going to say?
I'll show you later.
So I remember I said, oh yeah, I'm going to be teaching. And then she said, oh, do you teach English? And I just said, yeah. Like, I think, like, she thought that because I'm a foreigner and I live in Mexico. So everybody knows as soon as I start speaking Spanish that I'm obviously an English speaker. And so she just said that, and I was like, yeah. Because I was just like, I didn't want to explain and da-da-da-da-da. I was just like, let's just chill.
So if you say you're an astrologer, what's the most common question you get
Okay,
asked?
I'll give you a great example. Okay, I had an experience once when I was transiting through JFK. So I was on my way to Asia. I love to travel. Right now, my progressed moon is in Cancer, so I'm not making the most out of the moment here, because I'm missing home. It's like close to my ascendant now. But under normal circumstances, my Sag moon is very strong. I love to travel. So anyways, I was on my way to Asia. I was transiting through JFK. So I flew, basically I was headed to my third flight. Cancun to Mexico City to JFK, JFK to Taiwan to Bali. That was the first stop. Yeah, so it was a long trip. And I was sort of at the beginning, but already kind of tired. So I got to JFK, and, I'm Canadian, and so it's always like super simple. Canada and the US have like sort of these agreements, very easy to go back and forth. And so I went, and, the first guy, he was just smiling at me, and he just made a little joke and gave me my passport. And then I was tired. I'd been up all night and I got kind of confused and I went into the wrong line. And so some guy came up to me, a Homeland Security guy, and said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Because of course I have nothing to hide, right? So I don't mind at all. But I also felt like a real nerd. I felt like it was my fault.
Yeah, I know.
Because obviously I'm like wandering around and everything. And so anyways, so he started talking to me. And he said to me, "So what do you do?" And I said, "I own a small multimedia company." And he said, "Wait, what do you do?" And then I said, I took a moment, then I said, "I have a YouTube channel and I write books." And then he said, "Oh yeah? What's your channel about?" And I said, "Astrology. It's all astrology." And then he responded like this. He said, "You know what? I have an uncle who has a friend who swears that he was abducted by aliens 20 years ago." That's what he said. And then our conversation just like flowed after that. And we talked about all kinds of things. And it was just the most wonderful conversation I think that someone could have with Homeland Security.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, yeah, he asked me about my life and my relationship and all this kind of stuff, but I had nothing to hide. So I was just answering and just being honest about everything. And, and then he found I had a couple copies of my book with me because the artist of my book lives in Indonesia. And so because I was going to see him, I wanted to give him a copy. So I was like, okay, yeah, I took a couple copies. So he saw my copies of my book and, we just kept talking and it was just really nice. So there are moments when it's like, okay, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like being an astrologer is sacred to me too.
Yeah.
And I know that when people hear astrology, it's like, I think that deep within the collective psyche, in our collective unconscious, we still associate astrologers with intermediaries of the gods. And up until very recently in human history, with the discovery of Uranus, that separation took place. But up until then, astrologers were the intermediaries of the gods. Even some places to this day in the East, right? It is the spiritual people, it is the gurus and the pundits who are the astrologers.
Yeah.
And so I think that because of that, it's almost like people bring all their own fears and their resistance and their own messaging about free will and control and this idea that somehow astrology is separate from faith is quite remarkable and a very modern concept. And so I understand that and I know that and I can see it for what it is. I understand the historical forces that have brought people to this place of that resistance. And I think that's part of my academic background.
Yeah.
It gave me that gift to have that sense of appreciation. But then it's like, I don't want that stuff projected onto me.
Yeah.
There are moments when it's like, for what? Why? Yeah, but it's different when I'm with my parents because my parents love to brag about me. They're like my PR people. They're walking around. They're like, "Oh, she is one of the best astrologers in the world." Yeah, they're the top astrologers. They're giving out my business cards and everything in a way that I just don't. So that's when the anonymity gets a little fuzzy. But then I think, what? They helped me so much. I don't want to stop them from being proud of me.
Let them,
yeah.
That's lovely anyway. Take it in,
lovely,
right?
isn't it? Yeah.
It's like, take that in.
Yeah.
Take all that stardom in and that love. Because a lot of people don't get that,
With that sense
They
of
don't
their
get
parents
the
being
parents
proud of them.
being so proud of them. I mean, my mum and dad told me that every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They told me all the time.
Oh, my parents fully expected me to become Prime Minister of Canada. like I do not kid you. I remember as a child talking, they were feminists, so they were really big on gender equality. But, I remember 5, 6 years old talking about why girls are the same as boys and talking about why all people are the same and equal and that our race doesn't matter and our gender doesn't matter. And, my father, he was a politician very much at the local level. And he had a degree in politics, political science, and he wanted me to become a lawyer, my mom as well. And so when I started my undergrad, I started in a Bachelor of Social Justice. So I started out on that path, but then halfway through, I switched to philosophy because it just felt like it just felt like I understood the basics. I understood the theories, but I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to understand like why.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one thing to say, okay, boys and girls should be equal. I'm in university at this point,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more sophisticated. But it's one thing to say there should be equality, but it's another thing to look at, okay, so why isn't there? Like,
Right.
what is going on? What is actually part of motivating people, for example, to vote the way that they do?
Right.
To maintain things as they are, even if it isn't working for them. So I decided, and I felt the call to go deeper. So I switched to philosophy, and then that in turn led me to my MA, which was it was cultural cosmology and divination, but it was with the Faculty of Religious Studies. So it was essentially this cross-cultural, cross-historical look at the role of astrology and how people tried to understand the will of the gods. So I feel like it was kind of this journey, and it took me to where I was supposed to go. But if I'm honest, I knew all along that I wasn't going to be,
Yeah.
I wasn't into being prime minister. And the reason was, I remember even as a little girl thinking, if I'm prime minister, I can't wear what I really want to wear. I remember thinking
that was so much more important.
I know. I remember thinking like, oh my God, I'll have to wear suits all the time. And I remembered like envisioning myself as an adult getting off a plane and having to look all dowdy, and I couldn't wear my funky clothes with my colorful and all that kind of stuff. And so I knew at a very young age. But I had a lot of support, not only my parents, but I had a wonderful teacher. You know, teachers change the world.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about him lately because he made such a difference in my life. And his name was Mario Godlewski. He was a middle school sociology teacher. And he really believed in me as well. And he was the first person to take me to, I don't think my dad took me to like demonstrations, but I remember him taking me to different, demonstrations and community events, and how much he just really believed and encouraged me to believe in my own ability to articulate myself and my intellect. And he was just everything you'd want a teacher to be, you know, completely respectful, encouraging, wanted you to develop on a level of your mind and the academic stuff, and to learn more, to go deeper with what you understand. And so he was, somebody also that I think of as sort of standout. I mean, I'm sure he didn't anticipate me becoming an astrologer. I didn't know, but I remember it was that summer between, just before I met him, that was that summer that I was a palm reader. Right.
Ah.
And so it's so interesting because Jupiter was conjunct my ascendant, and I got that job as a palm reader, but then I also met this amazing teacher who changed my life. And so just lots of things happened with Jupiter on my ascendant. Lots of good things happened for me.
Jupiter on your ascendant. God, I wish I had that.
All the time. No. I mean by transit.
Oh, by transit.
Yeah, I have Jupiter in the 10th in my natal chart.
Oh,
and that's a good place.
That's very good.
Yeah. I can be very Jupiterian with my work. Yeah.
You're out there.
Yeah.
Bigger, better, more.
But it's like a Jupiter in Aries, so that's one part of me, right? So that's out there.
Yes.
But then I also have a Cancer rising. And so when people really get to know me up close, then they start to see those other
yes,
subtleties.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice balance, you know, the air with the...
right?
That's quite good. We should have if I was at home, I'd have a fan.
Yeah.
And you could have that blowing hair.
Yeah, right? Like Mariah Carey video here.
So we stopped there for a minute because the card filled up, the memory card, and we were left it off at Jupiter, I think.
Jupiter, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, Jupiter's in my 10th. That's a good placement for
It's
Jupiter.
a very good place.
Yeah,
excuse me. Got to fix myself.
Good for you. Yeah.
So what you were talking about that teacher?
Yeah, I was talking about I think Jupiter can bring people as well, right? So he was a very Jupiterian figure in my life. So for me, it was like this Jupiterian figure arrived and helped me to understand what really mattered much differently, which is Jupiter moving through the first house. And it was a blessing as well, which is also very Jupiterian, especially in Cancer.
Yeah.
Jupiter can bring really...
Exalted.
Yeah, exactly. It's exalted and brings really big blessings where it comes to Cancer as well. Yeah. So that was like a real year, a real time of transformation in my life, I think. So if I had to think back what put me on the path, probably was that 14th year of my life that put me on path with all the different opportunities that came.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Just like Nadiya.
Just like Mary.
Thank you so much for
Thank
agreeing
you, of course.
to this interview. I was so gracious of you.
I hope you got lots of interviews this week.
I ended up not. And I'll tell you why, because I got so busy and everybody was scheduling it differently. And then you basically are the star.
You know what you do? Right now we're on the last full night.
Yeah.
And people are going to be happy, they're going to be tipsy or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you can pull people aside.
Yeah.
You can say like, hey, can we get that interview in now? Do you have 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And just sit down with them and do it. I have done that a lot at conferences.
Did you bring them back up to your room, or do you do it wherever?
I both. So I remember at UAC 2012, that was really when I started. In 2011, I started diving
I saw
in
the 2012
really
and I saw all the,
Yeah, and so there were times when I literally like ran up to people and said, hey, can I have 5 minutes with you now? And I just gave my phone, my iPod at the time, I gave it to somebody and I just held the mic. I had like a lapel and I just held it back and forth and went like that.
Yeah, because I forgot my mic. I didn't bring my mic, which was the other mic. I've got this one that fits on
and
top of the
this is
camera.
great too. But then
if it's noisy downstairs that you can't pick anything up.
But then I also grabbed people. I kind of said, hey, do you want to come and talk? I remember NCGR in 2013, I did that a lot. So I just went out and said, hey, do you have a minute now? I emailed you, blah, blah. Can you want to come now? And literally like 10, 20 minutes, people really can be very revealing in that amount of time.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, 10, 20 minutes. Good. Yeah. Thank you, darling.
But we spent more than that. Which
we did, because I wanted... Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mary.
Nadiya Shah, check out her channel. She's got an amazing channel. I think you're brilliant. I'm not just saying that. I really do.
Thank you. I think you're brilliant. I do.
She's fabulous, darling. Absolutely fabulous. Have you seen
you're
that show?
You're a star, darling.
You're a star, darling. You know, you said you called everyone fabulous. I call everyone darling because I don't remember everyone's name. I go, darling.
I do say my dear sometimes, but I believe it too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's like it's coming from a genuine place. I think it's okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for tuning
you, everybody.
in. Check out Nadiya Shah. I keep saying, because people in America say Shah for sure, I keep saying Shaw, and then I said no, it's Shah.
Well, whatever you want, I'm good with it. It's okay. But yeah.
Thank you guys. Don't forget to like this video, share it on your social media, and comment.
And subscribe.
Subscribe to Nadiya as well. And I love you all. Mwah. And I'll see you soon.
I'll do that too. Mwah.
That's my thing.
I haven't done that before.
I love
that.
Mwah. I love you all. And I'll see you next week.
I love you all. There we go.
I love that.